Greetings and salutations, this is Akirishin. In this video, I will be featuring the Ki-94-II Japanese fighter. This is one of my favorite Japanese fighters. It's a great looking aircraft, it's extremely maneuverable and powerful. This aircraft sports two 30mm cannons with, I would say, not quite medium, slightly less than medium damage per second. About the same rate of fire, medium to medium minus rate of fire, and a medium effective firing range. So armaments-wise, the 30mm on this aircraft is about medium, average, if you will. It also has two 20mm cannons with, I would say, low damage per second, a solid medium rate of fire, and a medium plus effective firing range. This aircraft has high maneuverability in horizontal turns, but I can't help myself. I have nonetheless equipped lightweight airframe 3 for the plus 3% in maneuverability in all axes, controlled surface adjustment 3 for an increase in maneuverability in the turns by 3%. This aircraft has a vulnerable engine that often catches fire, so I have equipped the self-sealing fuel tank, which reduces the chance of fire and damage caused by fire by 50%. I would describe this particular fighter as being squishy. Like many Japanese fighters, they are kind of a glass cannon. So the self-sealing fuel tank is designed to beef up this aircraft's survivability, which it needs. In terms of ammunition, I have equipped the universal ammunition, which has a medium chance of fire and a better than average chance for a critical hit. If you wanted to go with a gold ammunition choice, you would go with high explosive incendiary. I have also equipped the fire extinguisher because, again, this engine does quote-unquote often catch fire. Can't have a burning plane, especially a squishy one. Because the engine is vulnerable, I have equipped this aircraft with the pneumatic restarter to restart the engine should it fail. And as always, I have equipped reinforced control surfaces so that I can get that extra turning ability in all axes for 10 seconds when I'm in that close dogfight, maybe even with another Japanese fighter, and I just want to get that extra edge in the fight. I wanted to say that you could also go on the ammunition with the high explosive. In fact, it might even be a better choice than the high explosive incendiary if you were going to go with the gold version of the ammunition, because it is this aircraft is described as having quote-unquote a large caliber armament, and high explosive ammunition is most effective with large caliber weapons. But if you go with the high explosive ammunition, you practically have no chance of starting a fire. Doesn't mean you won't start a fire, but the chances are not very high. Whereas the universal ammunition has the higher crit chance and at least a reasonable chance of fire. And having that fire on your enemy aircraft can be very useful and sometimes close out the battle when otherwise they might escape. Pilot skills wise, I do not have many skill points on this particular pilot, so I have chosen to go with fire resistance. Again, just trying to ameliorate the squishiness of this aircraft by avoiding fire as much as possible. Stats wise, the optimal altitude for this aircraft is 2,200 meters. So it is what I would describe as a high climber, maybe a high climber minus. Some of your more robust high climbers would be around the 2,500 plus meter mark, but 2,200 meters is pretty good. This aircraft, its optimal airspeed is 391 kilometers per hour. So I would not describe it as a particularly fast aircraft. As you can see, its maneuverability is quite good, 83 out of 100. And you see it is described as being quote-unquote very effective in intercepting aircraft at a high altitude. It's also described as having a good boost. When we get in game, I'll let you know what the boost length is. I don't remember it. I don't know why that is, but I never remember what the boost is on these aircraft. But sometimes they say it's a good boost, and maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Sometimes there's 6 seconds. My guess is this is probably about a 6 second boost, which is pretty common for the Japanese fighters, and that's not very impressive in my book. And it's also described as having a high airspeed, and again, this aircraft's optimal airspeed is 391 kilometers per hour. I wouldn't describe that as a high airspeed, but maybe they see it differently. I will let you be the judge as to whether you think that's a high airspeed. Paint scheme wise, as I mentioned, I do consider this to be a very attractive aircraft. I think it's got great lines. I like the extra propellers on it, and I like this design where the canopy kind of sits on top of the frame. Some frames will come up like this and the canopy will kind of disappear into the frame. I like this frame, which is kind of like the P-51 Mustang, that it kind of sets up on top of the airframe, so I really enjoy that particular look. So this is the summer paint scheme. Really nice, I think. And I've added a little, I'm not sure what you would call that, a little lightning thing. I'm not sure what it is, but I thought it looked pretty neat on this particular aircraft. This is the winter, your classic zero paint scheme, which is very nice. Desert. And finally, marine. I tell you, this cloudy hangar doesn't help for viewing these planes, does it? Pretty spacious cockpit, I would say. Okay, so some of the commenters on previous videos have requested that in future videos I compare the aircraft that I am reviewing to other similar aircraft at the same tier level. So I think that the best way to do that is to use World of Warplanes compare feature on their website. So let's go ahead and do that now. Okay, so we are on World of Warplanes website, and for any of you who did not know it, there is an option to compare various different aircraft, and I have chosen several aircraft that are at a level 8 and are fighters to compare with the Ki-94, so you can kind of see where it falls in relation to other fighters. And in this first section here, we've got the Russian Yak-15 and the German Me-209A, which is one of my favorite aircraft. So let's just go through this here, and you can see that armament-wise, the Ki-94 eclipses both the Yak-15 and the Me-209. None of the aircraft have bombs or rockets. Survivability, again, the Ki-94 surpasses the Yak-15 and the Me-209, which really surprises me, quite frankly. When I think of, more survivable fighters, I don't think of the Japanese fighters. I think of them as being more maneuverable, and that has its own degree of survivability, but I don't think of them as being particularly structurally more survivable. But you see here the hit points, and by the way, these are all these configurations are the with all the upgrades for the aircraft. But you see here the hit points for the Ki-94 greater than the Yak-15 or the Me-209. Airspeed wise, the Ki-94 is faster than the Yak-15 but slower than the Me-209. Let's skip down here to average time to turn 360 degrees. So when you're in that turning fight, and this is not surprising, the Yak line of aircraft are very, very maneuverable in the turns. And so are the Japanese fighters, but you can see the Yak-15 beats it. Whereas the Ki-94 eclipses the Me-209A. Optimal airspeed. The Yak-15 is not really what I would call a fast aircraft. So you can see the Ki-94 does surpass it in that regard, but it is slower than the Me-209A. Stall speed, the Yak-15 is is the same as the Ki-94, but the Me-209 will stall at a sooner than the Ki-94. And here you see the altitude performance, the optimal altitude for these aircraft. The Yak-15 is a low altitude fighter, so it is, significantly, its optimal altitude is significantly lower than that of the Ki-94. Whereas the Me-209, if you remember, I mentioned that many of the high altitude performers are 2,500 meters and above, you see the ME-209 falls into that category and eclipses the Ki-94. Rate of climb, which is sometimes important if you're trying to get out of dodge. When the you-know-what hits the fan, or if you're just trying to gain altitude so you can come back down from a position of advantage over your enemy. You see the Yak-15 has a lower rate of climb, which is understandable considering it's a low altitude performer, whereas the ME-209 has a greater rate of climb. So let's remove those two aircraft, and now we have the American P-51H Mustang and the Supermarine Spitfire 14. Now, of course, the Spitfire is an extremely maneuverable aircraft, but you see the Ki eclipses both the P-51. I'm sorry, this is we're talking about armament here, but you see that the Ki-94 eclipses both the P-51 and the Spitfire in terms of its armament, which is a little surprising because you think of the P-51 as a pretty strong aircraft, but the P-51 has machine guns, whereas the Ki-94 has cannons. So survivability, these aircraft are on par with each other. Okay, no difference there. They all have the same hit point level. Airspeed, the Ki-94 is slower than the P-51 Mustang, which is not surprising. The P-51 Mustang is known to be a faster fighter, but the Spitfire is slower than the Ki-94. And you see that now the top speed, both the P-51 Mustang and the Supermarine Spitfire have greater air speeds than the Ki does. Maneuverability. The P-51 Mustang, if you've ever gotten into a turning dogfight with it, you probably know that it is not particularly good at that. A lot of things the P-51 Mustang is good at, but the turn and burn fighter role is not its gig. So the Ki-94 certainly eclipses the P-51, but the Spitfire slightly eclipses the Ki-94. Not really significantly so, I would say. How long does it take for this aircraft to turn 360 degrees? Well, the P-51 Mustang takes longer. The Spitfire the same amount of time. Stall speed is higher for the P-51 Mustang. It is the same for the Spitfire. It's almost like the Japanese and the British got together and collaborated on their aircraft. Altitude-wise, the P-51 is a high-altitude aircraft, kind of like the 209. So it's at 2,500 meters, so it does eclipse the Ki-94, whereas the Spitfire is not as much of a high climber. And of course, surprisingly though, even though the Spitfire is not as high a climber, it has a higher climbing rate than the Ki-94. So anyway, those are some of the comparable Tier 8 fighters, and I hope that helps you to put the Ki-94 in perspective. Okay, so let's get into a battle here and see how our Japanese Wonder plane performs.
Show me what you can do, pilots. Let's roll.
Okay, so this aircraft has a fairly short boost. 6 seconds, which is typical for Japanese fighters. And we're just kind of maneuvering here a little bit back and forth so that we can try to avoid some of this flak that's coming at us. And we of course have enemy team aircraft here trying to take the objective as well. See how that goes for us. And we're just using short bursts here. You hit the broadside of a barn today. There we go, now we're making some progress. This fellow doesn't seem to care that we're behind him, he's gonna get that air defense craft no matter what. You know, you want to try to avoid getting blinders like that if you've got an enemy aircraft on your tail. Let the air defense aircraft go. Alright, so we'll go over here and is that burned? It's hard to tell. Got an ME-262 over here. We had an ME-262, now we do not. Let's see what we have here. XB-72. Short bursts. That's all these cannons can take. They will overheat. Otherwise.
Base is under our control. Get ready to support the attack.
We have here an IL-20. Alright, these are excellent ground attack aircraft. They have pretty good rear guns, I believe. Definitely want to be cautious and cognizant of those guns. Go under here, flip over vertically. Kill some squirrels. So you know, no animals were harmed in this video.
Our military base is launching strikes on the enemy. This will make things easier for you.
You got us with the bomb. Good move, IL-20. Didn't see that one coming. Alright, so we're going to get right back into the action here at the airfield. We've got several enemy aircraft trying to take it, and I'm gonna BV something. I like to call the bat jet.
The enemy has gathered forces to attack the command center.
He's gonna come around, so be there for him.
enemy. Nope. Let's see if he pays more attention to us this time. Nope. Okay, what do we have over here? There's our IL-20 again. Headed over to our military base. We cannot permit that. Dive under it. Flip over vertically. And he's got our propeller there. I think we'll follow him a little further away this time.
Be advised, a line of thunderstorms is approaching. We'll soon be unable to provide support. Do you copy? Over.
So we'll try to maybe come at him from the sides. So we can avoid some of that gunfire. Okay.
We cannot support you any longer. The storm is too heavy. Do you copy? Over.
Let's see our situation here. Now we have reached our squall line, so we're not going to be able to get saved here if we get killed. Let's see if we can secure this airbase as we smoke. Oh no. I think we need to stay away from that I-20. We just don't have the HP for it right now. Okay. So we put that fire out. Got some engine trouble here. This is not the aircraft that you want to have too much in the way of flak damage. Switch targets here because I saw this was a lower held target.
The enemy has taken over our military base.
And we have the air base. Let's see here, XP. Let's see if we can take this guy out. Hopefully he won't dive on us. I don't know that we have the health for that. I'm thinking maybe we have Japanese fighter, multi-role fighter here. That's what it sounds like. No, it's a BV.
The enemy is launching rocket strikes on our complex. Try to neutralize Attention all
Short
fighters.
little bursts.
Enemy bombers detected. Destroy them.
Really want to try to be
You
disciplined
are
about
the
that.
final hope. Hang in there. Keep it up,
Okay,
pilot.
so
You can do it.
folks, we are going to run here because we need to live. We are it. We're the only one left. So if we live, we win. Let's go over here in the fog. Maybe that'll help. We're just gonna hide. There we go.
Victory is ours. We're waiting for your return.
Many times survival is winning. Okay, so effective fire, subjugator, #1 spot for the team, and our grade 3 fighter result. So let's go back to the hangar and check out our stats. So one of the things we learned from this is that this aircraft and flak from anti-air do not get along. This aircraft is not going to take a pounding from anti-aircraft and still perform at its optimal best. Okay, so 11 aerial targets destroyed. We got the Avenger accolade because we did destroy that IL-20, I believe, which had destroyed us with the bomb. I think we killed it as well, but it got us with the bomb after it died, after we shot it down. Over 10,000 in combat points. And let's see, we had 1, 2, 1, 2. We had 2 human pilots on each team. Let's see, our other human pilot on our team had the ME-262. Shot down 3 aircraft. And their #1 was the IL-20, which was destroyed 2 times. That would be the 2 times that we destroyed that aircraft. Their other human player had an XP-72 multi-role fighter. I have unlocked that aircraft, but I have not. I don't believe that I have purchased it yet. I've researched it, but not purchased it yet. So I'll feature that aircraft in a video down the road. But he shot down 5 targets. But on our end, 11 targets, and by surviving, we prevailed, because we were the last hope. It's good to be hope, represent hope. All right, so you see the strengths of this aircraft: very maneuverable, strong armament, although you have to watch the overheating of the cannons. Not very good at taking anti-aircraft, and doesn't particularly like rear gunfire either. But we were still able to shoot the IL-20 down twice and prevent it from taking our cap. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you get an opportunity to fly the Ki-94-II, I believe that you will have great success with it.